Hello everyone. Today we're deploying to the Forge world of Graia to prevent those damnable orcs from getting their filthy hands upon the Warlord class Titan Invictus, as well as a mysterious power source, and to provide our boys and girls on the ground of the Cadian Elite Guards with some relief from this Xenos invasion. That's right, we're covering the 2011 third-person shooter Warhammer 40K Space Marine. I hope you're up for some alien and supernatural smashing, but before we get to our review, I'd like to thank today's artist Katophoenix for a quite lovely and fantastic thumbnail. Be sure to support her lovely work, and now let's dive into the story and development history, shall we? You take the role of Captain Titus of the Ultramarine chapter of Space Marines, or the Adeptus Astartes. You and your company are sent to Graia in an attempt to purge the world of a large-scale orc invasion, after a rock crashes into the planet right into one of their main orbital defense batteries, and they start using it to cut the planet off from reinforcements and supplies. After your Thunderhawk takes severe damage upon entry, you, veteran Sergeant Sidonis, our dry humor cracking, orc snapping man of action, who's always quick to snap a joke about whatever the situation is.
Sergeant, I see you found something to keep you busy.
Worry not, Captain. I've saved some orcs for you. This is your plan.
We need to get to the surface to take out the gun battery. Would you want to go home already, Sergeant?
Not before having a word or two with the orcs.
And our resident bitch boy slash rowboat girly man's Bible humping greenhorn Leandros.
Is that wise, Captain? The Codex Astartes does not support this action.
Try to keep up.
The Codex Astartes warns against using jump packs to leap blindly into enemy fire, and for good reason.
Your days as a novice are behind you. Why do you still interpret the Codex so narrowly?
I look to its rules for guidance.
We all do. But there are also benefits to thinking for yourself, Daniels.
Are forced to jump pack your way down to the surface, with you specifically landing on an orc gunboat. Once destroyed, you locate and assist the nearest guardsmen from becoming tomorrow's squig shit. You locate your squad, locate the highest ranking officer of the guardsmen, which is a lieutenant by the name of Mira.
I'm all that's left, my lord, unless my commanders rise from the grave. So far they seem content to stay put.
Lieutenant, the scouts have returned to forward base.
And now you're free to start wreaking havoc on the local orc population. Now, to avoid spoilers, let's start talking about the development of the game a little bit before we dive into the gameplay, shall we? Space Marine's available on the PS3, Xbox 360, or the most accessible way is on PC in the Anniversary Edition. If you already own the original PC port, you also would get a free update to the Anniversary Edition, which would come with some of the officially released DLC, as well as other bonuses such as the soundtrack, strategy guide, art book, and a variety of other goodies. Developed by Relic Entertainment, the same developers responsible for 40K Dawn of War, which is another 40K game that's well beloved in an RTS, as well as Company of Heroes, which is another popular World War II themed RTS. There was originally two planned sequels set after this game, one of which would have Captain Titus going rogue after the ending, but these plans got scrapped after THQ went under, and Relic was acquired by Sega instead. But hey, Sega's been taking care of Relic, and there's an actual sequel set to come out sometime in 2023, which is looking promising. So here's hoping it'll kick all sorts of ass. The gameplay of 40K Space Marine is a hybrid of melee and shooting, playing like if Devil May Cry and Gears of War had an even more blood-soaked and gory baby as you rip, tear, slash, bash, and Swiss cheesify your foes across the many battlefields of the game. There's some occasional quick time events where you'll engage in like melee duels, especially against larger, meatier foes who'll take some more damage to bring down, but I don't mind these as they don't feel out of place in an action game like this. Now, if you like 40K, you'll notice many of the weapons are ripped straight from the lore, such as the Godwin pattern bolter, which is your standard issue pattern of bolt gun that fires essentially rocket bullets that'll burrow into an enemy and then explode for massive gory damage. Or the Stalker bolter, which is a highly precise and deadly sniper rifle that when paired with the upgraded Fury mode called Marksman mode, it becomes a time-slowing headshot bonanza. Speaking of, the Fury system within the game basically charges with damage done to the foes. And once it's fully charged, it'll let you shift into a golden aura, ripping and tearing your way through enemies with ease as all of your attacks are made stronger, your combos are more effective, your executions become unblockable, and your health is constantly regenerating on top to boot, making you a real threat to any orc or demon that's dumb enough to get in your way. And let's not forget about your starting pistol being a standard issue bolt pistol, which while not having an insane fire rate like the heavy bolter, or insane damage output like the plasma pistol that replaces it later, it does come with infinite ammo and it's all reliable. Now talking about melees, there's a combat system and a variety of different weapon options that fight and interact differently, from the chainsword's fast reliable blows, to the power axe's armor cracking capabilities, to the Thunderhammer's mighty power bringing down the wrath of the Emperor to any of your foes unlucky enough to stumble upon you. And each weapon also comes with its own variety of gory execution kills when you successfully stun an enemy via a combo, a slam, or bitch smack, letting you game end enemies in spectacular fashion. I personally really enjoy some of the chainsword's hacking and slashing kills. Oh, and each execution will also refill your health bar on top, so you can view most enemies as walking medkits full of delicious space morphine. Now there is even more weapons that we could talk about, but I'll leave some of those fun toys as a surprise and instead talk about some of the enemy variety now. There's 2 enemy factions in the game, each coming with their own array of nasty enemies who will try to bring you down in their own ways. The orcs who you fight through the first half of the game, and less frequently in the second half, have a pretty large array of foes, from the lowly and cowardly Gretchen, whose only option is to charge you in flimsy waves armed with nothing but knives, to the sluggers who will come at you swinging with whatever chopper the boys have on hand, to the shooter boys who will fire off any gun they happen to locate or can duct tape together that day. And that's only the starting variety. There'll be knobs, big hulking brutes armed with large clubs that have to be weakened or smartly parried with well-timed combos to stun and open them up for an execution that also requires a button mash to finish them off. Or you can always just keep running away, chucking lead and explosives into them until they die. That is always an option. There's the always crowd favorite jihadist dog, aka the Squig, a weird little alien who is strapped with explosives and run towards the nearest foe, but these walkie powder cakes make for great ways to clean up large hordes of enemies, which they often happen to be right in the middle of. Now there is more enemies to talk about, but I don't want to get too much into spoilers in this review, but they all bring their own array of challenges and unique abilities to help mix up the violence and mayhem. Overall, the gameplay is just a blast. It's fast-paced, hyper-violent, and lets you get right into the madness with a nice blend of melee, guns, and witty banter. Hell, I didn't even mention the scenes in the game where you get a jump pack and you could just go flying up into the air, slam down, crushing orcs, then smashing them with a hammer or slicing and dicing them. Throw back a few drinks and get ready to kill about 8 hours, give or take, and enjoy. I haven't even mentioned the fact there's also multiple multiplayer modes. The first of which is a co-op mode that plays like horde modes that you'd find in a game like, say, Call of Duty Zombies, where players team up to defeat wave after wave of enemies. The second mode is a competitive 8v8 class-based mode where you can play 3 different playstyles. There's also a variety of additional modes added via DLC and free updates. such as a capture the flag mode, a capture the control mode where you take control points, and the final mode, which is the most interesting, being Dreadnought Assault. In this mode, both sides fight over a Dreadnought control point, and whoever manages to take the point will have one of their team members respawn as the Dreadnought and rain havoc upon your foes, using the Dreadnought to take further points, and it also adds a variety of other maps. Now this concludes the gameplay portion, so let's move on to the presentation and performance, shall we? If you ever wondered what a Forge World in Warhammer 40K looked like, well now you finally got your answer. Either stripped of most resources and barren, or filled with thousands of miles of machinery, tubes, pipes, and exhaust runoffs. As far as the eye can see, the graphics are solid for the time, some slight pop-in issues every now and then, but they aren't a major issue, and they sure as hell don't detract from the fun as hell gameplay. Now I can't say for the console versions, as the only one I have is the PC version, but overall it's got a solid stability. I only had one crash in my 3 playthroughs of the game. Sound design's also pretty solid. The violence is meaty and loud and visceral, with the sound of the chainsword ripping through orcs being a super satisfying sound.
Shell storage is below.
Or the pop of an orc's head as they're slammed against the ground and forced onto a one-way trip to Gork and Mork. This soundtrack's also pretty dope, very atmospheric and symphonic, with the chaos of battle rising and falling. Honestly, it's a pretty damn fine time either way. Space Marine is a hell of a fun time, with plenty of shit to do, game to play, hidden servo skulls with logs to find, and all the aliens that one could want the genocide. Honestly, the hardest part of recommending this game is the fact they still charge $60 for it on Steam, and it's a 12-year-old game. Though you could sometimes get it for cheap either on sales or via a humble bundle, and you can still get a good amount of goodies, including the entire game's soundtrack. Now, if you want to save a buck or two, you can also easily find physical copies for older consoles, or if you really want to play it for cheap but on PC, you can always try G2A, as keys typically run pretty cheap there. I don't personally advocate for that site due to a lot of their shady actions, but it would be remiss of me to not pass on information to the consumers. Just keep in mind that what you're buying is other people's keys, and sometimes things happen with that. With that being said, I highly recommend this game if you enjoy Warhammer, hack and slash shooters, or just a whole lot of violence. It's a good time no matter how you cut it. I'd also like to ask y'all to support Katophoenix before we go. Her artwork is fan-fucking-tastic. I'd also like to thank y'all for the support y'all have given me, especially in these review videos. I'd like to give a special thanks to all the members seen on screen. Y'all's financial support's been insanely appreciated, and I do plan to add more ways to say thanks. Now this has been Core, and I'll see y'all next time.